Good afternoon, welcome to the Team Idris channel. This is take 2 because in take 1 I had the number plate in full view and that was a bit stupid. So here is the project on the go. The wheelchair combined with the scooter. Well, 2 scooters and 2 wheelchairs. So I dropped on a couple of scooters and they were pretty wrecked, but they're a bit of fun, and I thought, hey, I could do Alicia Battle Angel skates, but yeah, I think we were all of the opinion that that was a bad way to die. So here's the basic scooter frame. Tube goes forward on the other side. Bit of a bracket on the top here for plastic. All the plastic's gone, all the screws are seized. But it is a workable frame. But after quite a while of cleaning it all up and wondering how it would fit on here, yeah, I realised it wasn't helping. It just wasn't bringing it. So that went in the bin. But these bits are quite nice. You've got standard sort of bearings in there, good seals on them, tube in the middle, cog on that side. Like a big baby mini moto really. The only difference, instead of discs, you've got an external band brake. Pull the lever and you've got brakes. The problem is that they're sort of biased. As the band clamps onto the drum, I suppose so. When it grabs here, that pulls on here and pulls it round. So the more you apply this brake, the more it self-assists. And scooters only go forward, so that's great. You have two similar parts, but one motor is going backwards because they've both got chains in the middle. So what I've done to this one is re-weld in, that's where it used to be mounted, the anchor, moved the anchor to there, drilled a new anchor point for the band there, so it is exactly completely the opposite to what it was. I haven't moved these screws. I think that'll probably be okay. So that should give me full braking going forward, because what would happen was, if I didn't do that, when I pull the brake lever and both of these operated, if I was going backwards I'd spin round one way, and if I was going forwards I'd spin round the other. So that's one problem solved. There are quite a few. Had to shell out for new batteries, new Yausa, because they're a good make. And I just couldn't get any second hand, and it's pointless anyway. So why do I want it? Well, I've got a very nice wheelchair, a proper ride-on one that can go on fairly rough ground, canal tow paths and things like that, can carry both of us. It's quite a beast, it's like half of a golf cart. But you have to have a trailer to take it places. It's just that bit heavier than an ordinary one. I think it's about 150 kilograms, it's certainly over 100. And you can't pop it in the car, and stripping it down is a nightmare. So this controller, which is just slightly out of shot, is like the next version up, I suppose you would say, from an old wheelchair, or the next one down from mine. It's a proper wheelchair controller from probably the 90s, possibly even late 80s. You got a general speed control maximum there. It can turn on the spot, got a cut off. That should be a good controller. It's got proper big pins on it, plenty of power, way more than we need for this. The motor's for that one, it's got wheels this far around, and the motors are huge on it. Looks like something you'd drag an aeroplane around with. So I had that on an electric sack truck, so I pulled that to go on here. This wheelchair, as you can imagine, is an absolutely normal standard push-along chair. The wheels bolt onto here, bigger wheels onto there, but I've jacked it all down. To stand it in the back of the car, height is a problem, because when this is in normal function, and the one that replaced it, you're always in risk of smacking the back window through on the old Ford Focus. So it needs to be able to narrow in this way, but it also needed less height overall, and that seems to have done it. At the moment this is sort of nearly folded up. I think I've lost it. It comes down about 9 inches, but that's plenty enough to fold into the back of the car. That's not going to be a problem. And of course, when you fold it out, it just sort of flumps out and away you go. So, was there anything I had to do to the controller? Yeah, it's been a while since I built the electric sack truck, but I remembered that it has to see an electric coil on there. The motors had brakes on the end, so they were a worm and nut, the motor sticking up, and then it had a brake on the top. So it has to see a coil. These motors obviously don't have inbuilt brakes. That controller did have, so yeah, just pop a coil on the end. It doesn't know the difference, it works happily. Otherwise it just bleeps a fault code. So the chain is a very, very fine chain. I think all of these are now belt, but chain's very reliable. Little touch of rust on that one. It had been left on its side and they're slightly open, so water had got into the bearing in the back here, 22 by 8 by 7 wide, and there was some corrosion in there. So the springs were on the way out, but I've oiled them all up. They seem free. Loads and loads of life left in the springs. Every single brush has a capacitor between it, and there's these chokes. So they're a nice motor. You know, they're further round than they are deep. Plenty of torque. You can see their life as a scooter where they've been bouncing over curbs and things. They've taken that all right. There's chunks missing out of that one. So yeah, we've got a pedestrian push-along wheelchair, an ancient electric wheelchair, controller, and 2 scooters built into it. Because that frame wasn't doing what I wanted to do from the scooter, I made a new frame. So the first part I made was this L section. That gave me a start off. From that bolt, drill a fresh hole up here, and the distance I need for the wheel to actually clear the chassis. That's good. So I made 2 of those, absolutely identical. Made one, drew around it, drew the other. Then I used the same master part to make these inner plates. They've got a bit more cover on them and a piece welded on under here to protect the chain and to protect the fingers from the chain. So a slight cover plate's going to go on here. I'm a spacer missing in there, which is why it's getting pretty close. But they run up okay. I've given it a quick fly and it seems okay. There were some sort of stand-on feet on the back here. I've cut those off out of the way because they were sticking to the wheel. What happened very quickly in the process was I realised that everything was so floppy, I just couldn't get any alignment in anything. And there was nowhere for the motor to mount. So I welded in this plate here with the holes in it, with the classic lightning holes in there, just to make it a bit more fancy. So that gives me 2 bolts there to mount on that's really strong. And I clamped a piece of wood between them and got them absolutely square and then welded them on. And that's given me a base to get everything here nice and square. And it's worked. It's got rigidity, especially when these are done up. The M12 by 6 inch long bolt gets it this way in alignment. That stops it flapping. When this one's tight, that's got it that way there. I've got a decent amount of structure to pop the brakes in without those flexing and moving around. So I'm quite pleased with that. It's coming together. I think some of this is 5083 and some of it will be just 1050. So that's my reaction there, welded into that. The next part I need to look at quite seriously, is how the top of this motor sits against the frame, and I'm tempted to just make a tab with a slot in it that bolts on here, because I don't know how the chains are going to wear, if at all. Ideally I'm just going to adjust them so there's a little bit of play in them. I don't necessarily want to use the original chain tensioners, because I'm going forwards and backwards. I would need 2 tensioners, so if I can do normal process of getting the chain a decent tension, I think that'll work better than having the original spring nylon rollers on there. So yeah, that's the build so far. The front is jacked down with some nice new scooter wheels with proper bearings, just to bring it a bit lower. It's basically, I want to use it for things like the NEC, clean places, so I don't need big wheels, I don't need spongy wheels. Having pneumatic tyres on the back is kind of in line with your spine, so they'll just take out the odd bit of a thing that I yump over. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with it. I've cut a lot out of this frame, added some stuff in, and it's looking completely feasible. If I can get these brakes lied in so that one brake lever works both brakes, I'll have to have a splitter somewhere, then I think it's ready for test. I better put brakes on it before I test it, not do the usual fly up and down the street and see how it works. yeah, so that's my slightly higher speed, not very much money, 2 wheelchairs and 2 scooters hybrid crocodilapig. Thanks for watching.